Okay, I'm gonna talk a little bit about my experience implementing boycotts. So, yeah, we'll just start with that experience implementing boycotts. So I am a case of so there's a bunch of people who like to be like, we're gonna boycott this, or we're boycotting this, and then they don't follow through, or something changes, and then they still do the thing, or they just like do it once just kind of for fun to be like, I boycotted. So I'm not that case. I'm the case of the person who takes boycotting very seriously and implements it in response to ethical and kind of ethics and morality violation, like just kind of that thing. And I'll go through some examples. But I'd say I'm here like working on a writing career, like working on writing, YouTubing, Yelping, Wikipedia-ing, that kind of stuff, because of implementing boycotts. So in that sense, if one wants like a really quick takeaway on knowing of whether or not they've been successful in boycotts and like implementing a boycott, I'd say if one implements boycotts and like is serious about it, it ends up, whether intended or not, if one has changed careers or industries because of the boycotts that have been implemented, and stay like extended career career change or industry change being like 2 or more years. Right, that might not be the intent at the beginning of the implementation of the boycott. So I'm going to use 2 or more years here as kind of a baseline serious. So like if somebody's a swimmer, they do not swim, they don't train, they don't compete or anything for 2 years, to kind of be taken seriously as a serious implementation of a boycott. I'd say kind of at like the serious level. There's other levels of boycotting too, like the one where people just want to say they boycotted something. But I'm a case of, I'm coming on 2.5 years of a number of boycotts that kind of resulted in me changing industries, and not staying on the same career kind of area. I was in research and science, like at a lab and stuff like that. So like, I don't do that now, and have not. I'm coming up on almost 2.5 years of not doing that, and like teaching in classes with 300 people, or helping teach classes with 300 people. Like they're a bit of a change. Yeah. So, what are some examples of like boycotts? So, a really basic one for me would be 30 October 2019. Quit UC Berkeley. With no degree. This was because there were some really unethical teaching. Like there were TAs in classes leaking exams to just their sections and stuff like that, which in science, like people need science classes for breadth, and like ruining somebody's GPA because two TAs take an answer key, leak it to their class, so everybody in their section gets 80% or higher on a test, and the average typically and historically and for everybody else is like, a 60. So essentially everybody in their sections get an A if the class is graded on a curve kind of thing. But they cheated because they used these answer keys that these other TAs leaked to their students. So it was just kind of, I was like, I don't stand for that. And then what they would do in addition to that is if people were in their sections, we had this online grading system. The TAs would go in and change the answers that were correct and give it 0 points and stuff like that, or less points on students outside their section. So they'd tamper with everything. So that showed only their students getting A's, even though the other people had the correct answer. Kind of thing. So they just screwed with everything. And UC Berkeley did absolutely nothing. They were actually supportive of this kind of conduct. And I was like, no. And then there was another TA who was trying to get control of all of the disabled student letters because she was working on research on the human genome and wanted to experiment on them without their consent. And I was just like, this is beyond unethical. Okay, like this is human rights violations, and the school is supporting them. So I was like, I'm out of here. So I quit with no degree. moved home, and that was a form of boycott. My form of boycotting UC Berkeley, because I stand for morals and ethics, and the school did not and does not. It hasn't changed. Like, those people weren't fired or anything like that. And then I also had a supervisor who threatened violence on me, threatened to like beat me and stuff like that. And then, yeah, and he was promoted after doing that. So like, this is, in my experience, a very unethical institution. Another example is going to be, so publishing is going to be 2018. This is a geophysical research letters. It's a journal. And then the proceedings, I don't actually remember, of the National, it's like American Academies of Science or something, Academy of Science or Sciences, something like that. And this is in the United States of America, so USA. There were some, had submitted a publication, so this is an example actually that kind of is relevant for my writing. I do actually boycott publishers, and this is an example of that, where the submitted publication I had not been informed by somebody who submitted the publication. Like, I was on this paper and I didn't want to be an author on the paper, even though I had done a bunch of the research and helped with the conclusions and stuff like that. So it was just kind of a, I don't want to be any part of this. Why? Because I had submitted feedback to the co-authors that they had missed these really big things in the paper, and the results weren't actually accurate. They had miscited sources, stuff like this, that was like, this science being published at the end of the day was not accurate. And I was like, I want off this paper. Like, I don't want to be affiliated with this. And so I submitted, I reported this, and UC Berkeley did nothing. I reported this to the journal I did not consent to it. The other people had submitted it to. I contacted the editors. They rejected the publication without comment. So they actually did something. So like, good to them. However, one of the people was like a fellow of the Academy of Sciences, and they didn't get their status taken away. I have a personal standard of, if one's a scientist and publishing and attempting to publish false information, they should have that fellowship revoked, fellow status revoked. So I boycott them. I don't submit stuff there for publication. Geophysical research letters ended up publishing the inaccurate science. Fortunately, my name wasn't on it. Like, I managed to get myself off of these publications, even though I had done a fair amount of the work, kind of thing. Especially on data collection and like data, like sample processing and stuff. Like, I still have all the samples, like stuff like that. And so it's just kind of like, okay, so this published, like, and like samples are supposed to be available for like other people and stuff, and I'm like, I have received 0 communications about the samples, right? That's like, that's really bad as a publisher. So that's geophysical research letters, publishing inaccurate science, and violating, like in America, you're supposed to have, and in science more generally, like things available once it's published, and they did not do that because people who published it don't even have the samples. So there's just this scientist me being like, I stand by at least accurate, right? It doesn't mean like, I stand by like actually doing things accurate, and like usually like truth in science is like, we can tell perhaps this one teeny tiny little detail about something, right? It's not overarching truths. So like, part of this is just people being really insecure, scientists being really insecure about they can only say this teeny tiny little thing. It's like, well, it's better say the teeny tiny little thing and get it right than get it wrong. And I don't know, get boycotted, but they don't really mind that I boycott them. They don't care. It's not like these institutions or publications reach out to me or anything like that. They don't give a crap. Like, they just don't care. And then another one is the National Science Foundation. So this is 2018 or 2019. I stopped working on a project, so I was being funded partially by the National Science Foundation. I stopped working on the project, and then I got an email being like, this is in response to you being funded by this project. And I was like, I haven't been paid for this project in a year. And it turns out, like, the principal investigators had still withdrawn the money. It just had never come to me, but they told the National Science Foundation that it went to me. And so the supervisors, it's called money laundering. It's actually a crime. Did the National Science Foundation do anything about it? No, they still fund these scientists. And that's after, so I reported it to the National Science Foundation. So this is like, if one wanted a formula, is there's ethics and moral violations, financial crimes committed. I report them and nothing is done. That's what results in me boycotting something. Speaking from experience. And so these are boycotts that have been going on for, I guess in the first case, coming on 2 years and 5 months, or 2.5 years. For these later two, they've been a little bit longer. Yeah, so just, I'd say, why did I do it? So I guess I provided a formula that wasn't really how I thought of it at the time. It was why I boycott. Self-protection. I mean, there's the reality check of, for each of these boycotts, there was a supervisor who had threatened to physically abuse me, to beat me, and had threatened me violence. And like, at the end of the day, it's like, and there was inaccurate science. So there's like the, I don't stand for inaccurate science part. There's the, I don't want to be beaten or clubbed to death, even though this is what this person is threatening to do. That kind of thing. So there's a very real self-protection of like, if things really are that bad, sometimes the only solution is to remove oneself and make it known, this institution, if none other than my refusing to interact or my quitting, or quitting a culture or something like that, it's to protect myself at the end of the day. So that's kind of the why I boycott. Yeah. So that's my experience with implementing boycotts. Is there been, so I've said, some people might get depressed by the, like, they haven't said anything to you, they haven't reached out, they really don't want you, they really don't want me. Okay, I get closure on that too. I mean, I'd say it's a really good thing, right? I did this for self-protection, so if people are not reaching out to me, like, trying to, like, or get me back or something like that, that's good. That's what I wanted. Like, I wanted self-protection, and these institutions and individuals hurt me or threatened to hurt me in the first place, or my reputation, so having no communication with them, well, that's excellent. That's what I achieved. And I think that what would be knight in shining armor in all of this is my alma mater, so the University of Hawaii at Manoa. They still put out news pieces with my name. So when I was there, I applied for a research grant as an undergraduate, like put out a research proposal. I got the research grant, full funding, that kind of thing. They still use me after I've implemented all these boycotts, after I quit a graduate school with no degree. They still use me as an example of someone who was successful. So there's like if you want to see who your friends are, they still want me, and they still use me as an example of excellence, even with these boycotts I've implemented. So that's like a heartwarming aspect in all of this, at least in my perspective.